There is no question that one of the most tedious tasks in Photoshop is making a decent selection that involves hair or fur. In-depth measures usually need to be taken in order to achieve a smooth, accurate result, but not anymore. Photoshop CS5 brings a very welcome addition to the Refine Edge command called Edge Detection. In front of us, I have a picture that contains a fair amount of fine edges in the model's jacket. Using standard selection methods to create a decent selection would be very difficult. Now with Photoshop CS5 we can simply make a very basic selection, then hop into Refine Edge and start perfecting that selection. We're given a few different ways that we can view our final outcome. Typically, I like viewing my subject on a white background or as a silhouette. I find that this makes it easier to see the finer details. You'll see why in a moment. Now increasing the radius will attempt to pick out the finer details, but as you can see the selection is still way too blocky and inaccurate. This is where Smart Radius comes into play. You'll notice that once I check on Smart Radius and increase the radius, the difference is already outstanding. Photoshop has detected the finer edges around my selection and has given us a really nice result. We can now go in with a Refine Radius tool and paint over the areas which you may have originally missed in your selection, or just areas that need a little bit of retouching. Using this tool will also help remove some of the smaller areas in between hairs or furs that usually you cannot get to. At the bottom we also have the Decontaminate Colors slider. This will allow us to remove some of the colors that may have spilled onto our subject, whether it be from excess lighting or finer color that may be in between the hairs. This is why it's so important to use the Refine Radius tool that I described above. And of course, if you want to make some additional minor changes to your selection, you can smooth, feather, contrast, and even shift the selection. If you find that your selection is a little bit too large or a little bit too small, shifting a little bit may help squeeze that selection inwards or outwards for a much better result. Now if you hop into the black and white view, you can really start to see some of the details of this selection. A selection like this would usually take a heck of a lot longer, but with Photoshop CS5, editing has been made so much easier. And now we can go ahead and output our selection and continue our editing. I'll typically save to a new layer with a layer mask attached to it, so that I can always go back and make some minor changes later on. Stay tuned for more new and exciting features inside Photoshop CS5.